they told me, "You're on your own now, Grace." No drama, no comfort, just those words and a shrug. A week later, my sister Clara got a brand new condo, 2 bedrooms, lake view, a ribbon across the door like a prize. No one asked if I had rent money. No one noticed when I quietly faded out of the family group chat or when my calls stopped. 4 years later, my name appeared in Forbes. My research, the one no one cared about, had changed everything. And that's when my mother showed up at my office, uninvited, smiling like she belonged there. She said she'd come to celebrate. But in her purse was a folded piece of paper that made my stomach turn cold. For a moment, I thought she wanted forgiveness. She didn't. She wanted something that had a price tag, exactly $1 million. My name is Grace Hayes. I grew up in a house that looked perfect from the outside. 2 stories, white fence, roses by the porch. The kind of place that made neighbours wave and say, "Nice family." But inside, it was a stage play with 1 star, and I was just the extra who never got a line. My mother, Evelyn, directed every scene of our lives, and her favourite actress, my sister, Clara. Every conversation somehow circled back to her grades, her recitals, her potential. Every photo on the mantel had Clara smiling front and centre. If I appeared in the frame at all, it was probably by accident. Clara sparkled. She danced. She sang. She was the miracle, as Mom loved to call her. When she performed, Dad stood up to record her. When I brought home straight A's, he didn't even look up from the paper. Mum would say, "We don't brag in this family, Grace." But somehow bragging about Clara was fine. At 16, Clara got a car with a big red bow on it. I got her old bus pass and a reminder to be grateful. Dinner was always the same script. Dad talking about work, Mum praising Clara, me clearing the plates while pretending it didn't sting. The smell of lemon soap clung to me, the scent of invisibility. I told myself I was strong, that being invisible meant I was independent. But deep down, I knew that was just a story I told to survive. When I got into college, I practiced asking for help with tuition for days. I waited for the right moment. Dad relaxed, TV humming, newspaper folded. "Dad, I'll need help with room and board," I said softly. Mum didn't even look up from folding laundry. Dad muttered, "You've got scholarships, right? You're 18. You'll manage." Those words sliced deeper than they sounded. That night I filled out student loan forms under the weak light of my desk lamp. Across the hall, Clara slept peacefully. I wasn't angry, just hollow, like a door had closed and no one noticed I was left outside. College was a blur, labs, ramen, side jobs. At first I'd send short messages home, still hoping someone might ask if I was doing okay. They never did. The family chat was still alive, but filled only with Clara, her new dresses, her vacations, her engagement photos. I muted it. Then I met Dr. Elena Cruz, a researcher who took me on as her assistant. She saw me in a way no one else ever had. She said, "Grace, you don't just follow instructions, you think." That single sentence changed something in me. She introduced me to the rhythm of the lab, the steady hum of machines, the smell of ethanol, the quiet thrill when an experiment finally worked. It was the first place that didn't demand I shrink myself. By graduation, I'd built a calm around me, a fortress made of focus. I told myself I didn't need them anymore, that I was free, until one photo proved I wasn't. Clara again. This time, holding a condo key, a lake shimmering behind her, a red ribbon fluttering on the door. Caption, "Happy 21st to our baby girl." The same red bow from her first car, the same celebration that never included me. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the phone. I just stared until the screen dimmed. That's when I realised, some wounds don't fade. They just learn to change shape. After that, home stopped being a place. It became something I had to build from scratch. My scholarship covered a basement apartment. Paper-thin walls, pipes groaning through the night, air smelling faintly of instant noodles. I lived between the lab and my laptop. Dr. Cruz would ask, "Do you ever take breaks?" I'd reply, "Breaks are expensive." She'd smile sadly, as if she understood what I really meant. The next semester, she called me into her office. "Grace," she said gently, "you've changed. You're driven, but be sure it's for yourself, not to prove something to them." I wanted to tell her it was both, but I stayed silent. When Stanford offered me a fully funded PhD, I didn't tell my parents, didn't tell Clara. I just packed my old Honda, trunk filled with notebooks and dying plants, and drove west until the highway sign said California. Somewhere along that drive, I stopped feeling like a daughter. I became something else. At Stanford, worth wasn't measured in attention. It was measured in discovery. I belonged to the midnight shift. Pipettes, playlists, fluorescent light. Silence no longer meant neglect. It meant peace. Occasionally, my phone lit up with family messages, Clara's engagement ring, Mum's captions about my beautiful girls. I scrolled through them like a stranger reading someone else's story. Then one day, a text came just for me. "Heard you finished your PhD, congratulations. Maybe now you can help your sister with her business idea." No question mark, just expectation. I deleted it and blocked the number. Years passed. My work became a startup, a small biotech company built from stubbornness and sleepless nights. Mark Reynolds, my business partner, joined later, calm, sharp, grounded. Together, we built something that mattered. When investors called, they called me Dr. Hayes. The same name that once meant nothing at my dinner table now opened doors. Success came quietly at first, then it roared. Headlines, funding, an acquisition offer, and that's when the ghost found me again. A friend messaged, "Your mum just posted about you." I opened Facebook for the first time in years. There it was, Evelyn smiling beside Clara. Caption, "So proud of my daughters. One runs a business, the other just made a scientific breakthrough. A mother's sacrifices are finally worth it." Sacrifices. The word sat like lead in my throat. She'd rewritten history, erased the silence, painted over it with pride she never gave. For a moment I wanted to comment, to remind her I hadn't spoken to her in nearly a decade. But then I realized she didn't post that for me. She posted it for the world. So I stayed silent. And that silence drove her mad. Weeks later, my assistant buzzed in. "There's a woman here asking for you. Says she's family." My pulse stopped for half a beat. "Send her in." Her perfume entered before she did. Vanilla and guilt, both too sweet. She looked exactly the same. Perfect hair, pearl earrings, that commanding air she wore like armor. "Grace," she said, arms wide. "Look at you. I can't believe it." I stood up slowly. "Mom." She scanned my office. Glass walls, framed patents, quiet hum of success. "So this is where all the genius happens," she said, half joking. Imagine my surprise reading about my own daughter in Forbes. "You could have called," I said. "Oh, I did," she replied lightly. "But you changed your number, so I thought I'd visit. Family should celebrate together, right?" Her voice was honey, her eyes sharp. She sat, opened her purse and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. "I've been thinking," she began, "about everything I've done for you, the sacrifices, the years of raising you girls." A chill crept down my spine. "What are you talking about?" She slid the paper across the desk, typed lines, itemized, private school tuition, meals, emotional labor. At the bottom, total, $1,000. I stared at her. "You're asking me to pay you for being my mother?" Her smile stayed frozen. "For everything I gave up, Grace. For what you could never repay." I took a slow breath. Family doesn't work like that. "Family," she snapped. "Family doesn't abandon the woman who gave them everything." I swallowed hard. "You chose to have me, Mom. Children don't owe their parents for existing. For a second, she faltered, then leaned closer. Can't or won't, she hissed. I could have had a better life, a husband who stayed. Instead, I gave it all to you. Her words echoed, but I didn't break this time. I just said quietly, I'll help with your expenses, but not this. Her face hardened. Then you're no longer my daughter. She stood. When the door closed, the silence wasn't empty. It was heavy, and for the first time, it was mine. I sat there motionless. The hum of the air conditioner sounded almost like peace. Then the tremor hit, the years of quiet ache finally shaking free. When I cried, it wasn't loud. It was steady, like something long stored finally leaking through. By morning, I wasn't crying anymore. I was done. I went to the lab before sunrise. Machines humming, the smell of ethanol crisp in the air. Dr. Cruz walked in, holding a cup of coffee. She came, didn't she? She asked. I nodded. She wants money. $1 million. Dr. Cruz didn't flinch. And what do you want? I thought for a moment. Peace, I said, but I don't think it's refundable. 2 days later, I met with my lawyer. I set up a trust for my mother, enough to cover her living costs, nothing more. Strict conditions. She couldn't touch the principal, only receive a small stipend. You're protecting her from herself? My lawyer asked. I shook my head. No, I'm protecting me from her. The calls started soon after. First angry. You'll regret this, Grace. You can't erase me. Then pleading. I forgive you, sweetheart. Just send the money so we can be a family again. Then threatening. Maybe the press should know how ungrateful you are. I stopped answering. Mark would see my phone lighting up and say, You don't have to read them. I'm not, I'd tell him. I just need to see how far she'll go. Eventually, the messages stopped. Silence again. But this time, it felt earned. A month later, Dr. Cruz called me in. You've been working like you're running from something, she said softly. Is it over? I nodded. Almost. She handed me an envelope, a ticket to a coastal retreat. Go. Rest somewhere quiet. That night I stood by the office window, city lights reflecting like distant stars. I thought of my mother, how she'd mistaken control for love, guilt for loyalty. And I thought of myself, finally breathing without permission. 3 months later, our company was acquired. $80 million. Champagne, cameras, applause. But behind every smile was the quiet scar of what it took to get there. After the speeches, I stepped outside. Cool Pacific air, sharp and clean. Mark joined me. You okay? I am, I said, and I meant it. But peace, I'd learned, doesn't stay still for long. 8 years passed. We built, we healed, we lived. Then one morning in Seattle, I saw her again, sitting on a curb outside a coffee shop, paper cup in hand. Her hair grey, her eyes dim. For a second, I forgot to breathe. I bought 2 coffees and sat beside her. She didn't recognize me at first, then whispered, Grace? Like a question she wasn't sure she had the right to ask. We talked for an hour, half-truths, small talk, things too fragile to name. She said she was sick. Pride had taken what time hadn't. When I left, I arranged help through the trust, not as a daughter repaying debt, but as a person choosing not to be cruel. I didn't forgive her that day, but I stopped letting her define me. Weeks later, the social worker called. She accepted assistance, they said, but refused to list you as emergency contact. I almost laughed. Even at the end, she wanted the last word. I didn't fight it. She was safe, fed, sheltered. That was enough. Some nights, I'd sit on my balcony overlooking the city, listening to the hum of distant traffic. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't roar or break. It hums, soft, steady, like the lab machines that once held my world together. Dr. Cruz retired that winter. At her farewell, she held my hands and said, "You've built everything you once needed. Don't forget to rest inside it." I promised I'd try. Mark and I created scholarships for girls in science, kids who reminded me of the girl I used to be, hungry to be seen. Each time one of them lit up over a discovery, something in me healed a little more. One morning a letter arrived and no return address, shaky handwriting. Inside, "Thank you for the coffee," no signature, no apology, just that. That evening, I drove to the lake near my childhood home. The water was perfectly still, like the world holding its breath. I whispered a goodbye no one heard, and let it drift into the ripples. Freedom didn't look like triumph. It looked like calm. For the first time, I understood. Love doesn't always heal you. Sometimes it teaches you who you must become without it. People think closure is a conversation, tears, hugs, apologies. It's not. It's the moment you stop waiting for what will never come, and live anyway. I don't hate my mother. I don't love her either. I just wish her peace, somewhere far from mine. If you've ever had to rebuild yourself from the silence your family left behind, hear this. You don't owe anyone for surviving. You don't owe forgiveness to stay free. Share your story. Someone out there needs to hear it. And if this story found you, stay.